The hit Korean webtoon The Prophet Omniscient Reader is here with a bang. A man, dissatisfied with the novel's ending, unexpectedly transmigrated into the novel itself. With his omniscience of the plot, he intends to personally build a new world that satisfies him. The male protagonist, Kim Dokja, has been inferior and introverted since he was a child, so he often suffered bullying from other classmates. His only hobby is reading novels, especially a game system novel called The Method of Survival. The protagonist of the novel is named Ju Jung-hyuk. Every time Dokja sees him roaming freely in another world and defeating all enemies, he can't help but feel a little yearning along with him, longing to tear apart those who bully him. But he usually ends up being badly beaten by them instead. As time goes by, Kim Dokja graduates from school and enters society, and because of his personality, he often gets bullied by colleagues at work too. That novel gradually becomes the only support in his painful life, but on this day, the novel suddenly announces its conclusion, and the ending is extremely bad. No one survives except the novel's protagonist, Yoo Jung-hyuk. Kim Dokja is extremely disappointed with this ending. He would rather the novel had a happy ending, so he takes the initiative to contact the author, hoping the latter would change the ending. Perhaps it's because the novel's popularity has been declining continuously over the years, and now there are already very few readers left. That author actually replies to him, and invites Dokja to rewrite the ending together, only there are still a few inexplicable words afterwards. Kim Dokja didn't understand what this meant. As he was thinking, he accidentally caught a glimpse of Sangha, the girl he had a crush on back then, and was shocked to find her also on the subway. She had a worried look on her face, clearly having run into some trouble. Dokja couldn't help but feel his heart stir again, and took the initiative to step forward and greet her. Only then did he learn that Sangha was worried about work. She had already completed a 3-month probation period, yet her supervisor John had been refusing to make her an official regular employee, because interns only received the minimum wage, and now Sangha could barely even afford her rent. Just as Sangha was complaining to Dokja, a man took the initiative to come over. This man was none other than Sangha's supervisor, John. He kept sizing Sangha up with a malicious glint in his eyes, and then proposed going with Sangha to a nearby hotel, to have a detailed talk about her regularization. To his surprise, Sangha refused firmly, saying she had made plans to go to her part-time job with Dokja. Only then did John notice Kim Dokja standing beside her. He didn't say anything more. He just turned around and left with an annoyed look on his face. Afterwards, Sangha told Dokja that John was a lecherous man, who often made advances on young female colleagues at the company, and that she hadn't been made a regular employee, because she refused to submit to him. As they were talking, sunlight suddenly streamed into the subway car, and immediately after, everyone realized that the subway had unexpectedly ended up on a strange bridge. Kim Dokja was equally confused, having no idea what was happening. It wasn't until he accidentally caught a glimpse of the time on his phone, that he realized it was exactly the time the author had mentioned. Right at this moment, a series of announcements suddenly came over the subway speakers, stating that they had arrived at the target station. Shortly after, a creature that looked like jelly appeared in the subway car. As a longtime reader, Kim Dokja immediately recognized this creature as the mascot from the novel, affectionately nicknamed Little Snot by readers. Kim Dokja's heart was filled with shock. Could it be that he had transmigrated into the novel's world? But of course, no one was there to answer this question for him. One passenger thought this was a prank pulled by someone, and immediately demanded that Little Snot send him back to work at once. Unexpectedly, the next second, at this moment, everyone realized the gravity of the situation. Seeing that no one resisted it anymore, Little Snot issued the first game mission to all passengers. A semi-transparent panel appeared in front of everyone. It required them to prove their worth within 10 minutes, by killing at least one other living organism, with a reward of 300 gold coins for each kill, and all those who failed to complete the mission would be eliminated. With the previous experience, no one dared to doubt the authenticity of all this. A young gangster made the first move, constantly punching and kicking the elderly person beside him. The other passengers also joined the fight one after another. Dokja didn't join this madness. He still couldn't believe that he had actually entered the novel's world, until he vaguely saw Yoo Jung-hyuk, the male protagonist of the novel. Dokja would never forget that figure. At this moment, his expression was filled with terror, because according to Dokja's memory, in the novel, a sea monster would attack the train soon after the mission was issued. Sure enough, the train was suddenly attacked the next second. The entire carriage was knocked flying. Many people fell into a coma because of this. Kim Dokja was the first to wake up. He knew that, with his own strength, he couldn't kill others to complete the mission at all, but what was written on the panel was living organism, so he set his sights on the ants nearby. Kim Dokja handed an ant to Sangha, then he didn't hesitate to crush an ant with his own hand. Amid the chaos, everyone clearly heard the announcement that Kim Dokja was the first to complete the mission, and was rewarded with 300 gold coins. At this moment, all passengers stopped fighting. They gathered around Kim Dokja, in a circle, wanting to get an ant. Just then, Sangha's supervisor John suddenly rushed out, and snatched the box of ants from Kim Dokja's hand. The other passengers also rushed to grab them. Kim Dokja finally managed to squeeze out of the crazy crowd. At this time, he looked back and saw that the young gangster from earlier was still constantly punching and kicking the elderly person. Kim Dokja hurried forward to stop him, but his build was frail, and he was no match for the gangster. Kim Dokja was pinned against the wall by the gangster and continuously beaten violently. Just then, he remembered that these gold coins could be used to buy stat points. He immediately used all his gold coins to buy strength stats. As his strength stat reached level 1, Kim Dokja felt his entire body filled with power. He threw a backhand punch and sent the gangster flying, but before Dokja could catch his breath, the gangster charged back again. Although the gangster had no money to buy stats, he could use his initial skill. Kim Dokja was ambushed by him and knocked to the ground again. Seeing the situation fall into crisis again, Kim Dokja found a small bottle of leech eggs. He crushed it without hesitation and obtained 3,000 gold coins in an instant. Kim Dokja maxed out his agility stat. The gangster's attacks seemed to turn into slow motion. Kim Dokja dodged all of them easily. There were only 30 seconds left until the end of the mission. Kim Dokja hurriedly stuffed an ant into the elderly person's hand, and told him to crush it immediately. When the gangster saw that time was almost up, he immediately launched a more fierce attack on the elderly person. Kim Dokja used his body to shield the elderly person. As time ran out completely, the gangster turned to ash with a look of terror on his face. But what Kim Dokja didn't expect was that the elderly person was finally eliminated by the system, because he couldn't bear to crush the ant. After this chaos, only 17 people survived in this carriage. A moment later, Little Snot appeared in front of everyone again. It summoned a panel and asked everyone to choose their favorite constellation. Kim Dokja, who had read the novel, knew this was a trap, so he resolutely chose to cancel. Almost at the same time, the train began to shake violently. The sea monster launched another attack on them. A burly man was constantly trying to break open the train door. Kim Dokja recognized him as Mike from the protagonist's team. Kim Dokja resolutely chose to join the group. However, at this time, Mike had not yet mastered how to use the system. He had 300 gold coins but didn't know how to use them. Kim Dokja taught him to use the gold coins to buy stat points, and only then did they break open the door. The few of them successfully escaped from the carriage in the last second of the sea monster's attack. However, the bridge had already collapsed by this time, and they seemed to be trapped here. To make matters worse, all the passengers who had failed to complete the mission earlier were turned into monsters by the system, launching a frantic attack on them. At this critical moment, Yu Jungyuk, the protagonist of the novel, suddenly stepped forward. His skill was summoning all kinds of weapons. As a handsome sword aura struck, all the monsters present were instantly cut down. While admiring the protagonist's strength, Kim Dokja thought about how to join the protagonist's team. Later, relying on his familiarity with the plot, Kim Dokja approached Yu Jungyuk, claiming that he had the ability to predict the future, and telling you not to go to the railway station mission location in a few days, for there was a terrifying fire bear monster there that would kill him. Unexpectedly, these words not only failed to win the protagonist's favor, but also angered him. Yu Jungyuk had great confidence in his own strength, thinking Kim Dokja was cursing him, and immediately threw him into the sea to feed the fish. When Kim Dokja woke up again, he found himself inside the monster's stomach, and a hidden mission had been activated, which required him to kill the fish monster and escape from there. Just then, Little Snot also appeared inside the fish monster's stomach. Kim Dokja had originally given up all hope, but the moment he saw Little Snot, he suddenly had a bold idea. According to the novel, Little Snot was just a little devil streamer, who had been striving to become a top streamer, but that required extremely high popularity. Kim Dokja believed that his previous performance must have caught Little Snot's attention, otherwise, Little Snot wouldn't have appeared here with him. So Kim Dokja proposed to sign a contract with Little Snot, to help it become a top streamer. Little Snot was indeed very tempted after hearing this and took out a contract on the spot, and after signing the contract, Kim Dokja would be able to unlock a special function called the Ghost Package, which was equivalent to a player trading market. Kim Dokja bought a lot of bone spurs from it. As Kim Dokja knew, although the fish monster was ferocious, it had a fatal weakness, which was its stomach. Kim Dokja used the bone spurs to block all the outlets of the digestive juice. In this way, the fish monster would starve to death because it couldn't absorb food. It took Kim Dokja the whole night to finally block all the digestive juice outlets. After an unknown amount of time, it finally showed that the mission was completed. The fish monster had actually starved to death. Just as Little Snot was about to teleport Dokja away, he went to a corner inside the fish monster's body. After digging for a long time, a blue-purple sphere appeared in Kim Dokja's hand. This was the fish monster's core, an extremely precious item. Even Little Snot couldn't help but be surprised when it saw it. Once such a treasure was put into the trading market, it would be auctioned off for billions of gold coins. However, Kim Dokja said that he only accepted barter, and specifically asked to exchange it for an item called Ether Faith. This was also an extremely rare item, and like the fish monster's core, it was valuable but unavailable for purchase. Little Snot had to list it on the trading market as required. After coming out of the fish monster's stomach, Kim Dokja met an unconscious woman. He saved her without hesitation. Just then, a mantis monster rushed out from the corner. However, by this time, Kim Dokja had already used the gold coins from the fish monster mission to raise his stats to a very high level, making him an absolute stat beast in the early stages of the game. Such a small monster couldn't do anything to him. Before long, Kim Dokja took the woman to a safe zone. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he was surrounded by a large group of people, who demanded that he hand over the woman. The leader was a man who called himself David. At this moment, Kim Dokja suddenly remembered a plot from the novel. There was a woman named Young Hee-won in the protagonist's team, who had been framed by this David in the early stages of the plot and almost killed by monsters. If he was right, the woman he had saved was Young Hee-won. Kim Dokja, who was determined to join the protagonist's team, naturally chose to do his best to protect Young Hee-won. A fierce battle broke out between the two sides immediately in front of Kim Dokja, an absolute stat beast. These people had no ability to resist at all. Seeing that David and the others were no match for Kim Dokja, the mastermind finally stepped forward. It turned out to be Sanga's supervisor, John. He claimed that this was all a misunderstanding. Later, through communication, they learned that this station shelter was found by John and his men. Although everyone had to pay 100 gold coins per day as shelter usage fee, it was still much better than wandering outside. Moreover, John would send high-level companions out to hunt for gold coins every day, to sustain the survival of everyone in the shelter. However, Kim Dokja's mind wasn't on these things. From the moment he heard the word station, he had remembered an extremely terrifying plot from the novel. If these people were still trapped in the station, and hadn't entered the next level in 3 days, countless monsters would spawn in the station, and by then, there would definitely be heavy casualties among everyone. While Kim Dokja was thinking about how to save these people, unexpectedly, another large group of people surrounded him. They had learned that Kim Dokja had a lot of gold coins, claiming that in times like this, everyone must work together and distribute all resources carefully, and demanding that Kim Dokja hand over all his gold coins for unified distribution by the group. Looking at John with a sinister look on his face in the crowd, Kim Dokja guessed that John was secretly instigating all this. Kim Dokja naturally wasn't foolish enough to believe in unified distribution. What's more, he had earned all this gold by fighting monsters, so how could he easily hand it over to these people? However, due to Kim Dokja's combat strength, John and the others didn't dare to act. Just as John was about to leave, Kim Dokja unexpectedly stopped him, saying that he was willing to support the shelter, but he wouldn't hand over the money to the group. Instead, he would help them open a passage to the next level. Upon hearing this, everyone thought Kim Dokja was crazy. After all, they had already tried, and knew just how powerful the monsters inside were. Even if all of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for those monsters. Nevertheless, Kim Dokja still entered that dungeon without hesitation. Of course, he wasn't so arrogant as to break in alone. He also invited 4 people including Shang Shan and Mike. While in the dungeon, Kim Dokja took the opportunity to tell them about the current predicament of the station. If they couldn't clear this secret dungeon within 3 days, countless monsters would spawn in the station by then, and everyone would be doomed to die. After hearing this shocking news, everyone had to take this operation seriously. Soon, they arrived at the monster spawn point in the dungeon. With Kim Dokja, the stat beast, those monsters couldn't pose a threat. But just then, Sangha was ambushed from behind by a monster and dragged away. The others immediately chased after them, but unexpectedly, they stumbled into the lair of the final boss. Kim Dokja remembered that the monster here was named Gyuro, whose ability was to make people fall into illusions. There was an altar under its guard, which was the passage to the next level. Dokja had great confidence in his current stats, so he rushed towards Gyuro without hesitation. However, Gyuro's stats were actually even higher than his. Gyuro easily dodged all of Kim Dokja's attacks. The few glancing hits barely caused any damage at all. If it weren't for Mike blocking in the front line, Kim Dokja might have been severely injured by Gyuro due to his recklessness. Seeing that it couldn't defeat Mike for a long time, the monster changed its tactics. Countless illusory hands emerged from all directions. Kim Dokja recognized this as exactly Gyuro's skill. Once caught by these hands, one would fall into endless nightmares, and eventually die miserably in agony. Mike, who was caught off guard, was grabbed by many illusory hands, and plunged into endless suffering. Dokja knew he had to end the battle quickly, so he immediately opened the trading market, and spent 5,000 gold coins to buy an item called Pure White Aura. This was a disposable item, As long as it was attached to a weapon, the next attack would unleash unparalleled power, even steel would be cut through in an instant. Dokja grabbed the weapon enhanced by pure white aura, and rushed towards Guro at top speed. Guro clearly didn't realize the power of the weapon now, and due to carelessness, was hit in the abdomen by Dokja. As Guro's health bar was depleted, 5 loot chests appeared in front of them. The loot obtained perfectly matched each of their combat styles. Sangha got a short knife, Mike received an arm guard to boost his defense. The most special loot of all belonged to Kim Dokja. It was actually a broken sword. Everyone thought he had bad luck and gotten a useless weapon from the chest, but only Kim Dokja, who had read the novel, knew this was one of the 3 legendary divine weapons, named Broken Conviction. If he could get his hands on Ether Conviction, he could repair this divine weapon and restore its former glory. Even if he encountered the fire bear that could kill Yu Junghyuk later, Kim Dokja believed he would still have the strength to fight it. Just as he was thrilled about this, the young boy in the team took out several stones emitting blue light, which looked like gemstones. However, when Kim Dokja saw them, he told the boy to throw them away. He recognized these were items created by monsters. Whoever ate them would fall into a long and terrifying nightmare. But then Dokja had a second thought. Maybe these items could be useful somehow. So he kept one on him, and it was this very action that saved his life later. After equipping their new gear, they happily returned to the station, planning to take everyone with them to the next level. But just then, they received a system notification demanding payment of the shelter usage fee. They immediately realized that the danger outside had not yet passed. Boss, at this moment, Kim Dokja suddenly remembered that there were 2 guardian bosses in this level. One was Guro, who guarded the altar, and the other was hiding among the people, tricking them into going out and killing them. Thinking of this, they guessed the true identity of the other monster. It was John, who had been sending people out this whole time. With this realization, Kim Dokja and the others rushed towards the station as fast as they could, determined to eliminate John completely before he could cause more damage. By this time, John had already received a system notification informing him that Guro had been defeated. He immediately sensed danger, hurriedly gathered his men, and planned to kill all the people who had come out of the dungeon. But by now, Kim Dokja and his group had already equipped stronger gear. The stats of these ordinary survivors were utterly insignificant compared to theirs. They were all knocked down by Shang Shan and the others before they could even get close. Moreover, the group charged towards John with undiminished momentum. Realizing he had been exposed, he stopped pretending and revealed his true monster form. Yet even so, he was still no match for them. Soon, Young Hee-won knocked John to the ground. Just as she was about to execute him, the surrounding survivors actually swarmed over to stop her. It turned out they had long known John was a monster, but they thought that as long as they offered a few people every day, the rest could stay safely in the shelter. So they all chose to keep John's secret. They had long been too terrified of the monsters outside to move forward, believing that it was better to survive a few more days here than to be killed by those monsters. Just then, John suddenly broke free from Young Hee-won and fled deep into the station. Kim Dokja and the others chased after him immediately, but they were one step too late. John ran outside the game's designated area. As players, the group was blocked by an invisible barrier, forced to watch John leave triumphantly. As the time for the monster horde drew closer, everyone grew increasingly anxious. Just then, a gunshot rang out, and the next moment, John was dead. Then, a woman with long hair stepped out from behind them, holding a sniper rifle almost as tall as herself. Kim Dokja recognized her as the die-hard fan of the novel's protagonist, Yu Junghyuk. Boss, the modified sniper rifle in her hand could take down a boss with a single shot from a kilometer away. If she was here, it meant Yu Junghyuk must also be near the station at this moment. Kim Dokja realized the danger, hurried back to the shelter, and told everyone to rush to the next level immediately. But it was already too late. The monster horde had arrived. The system announced that a monster horde would spawn at the station, and only those standing in safe zones would be immune to attacks. Moreover, only 50 safe zones would spawn in the first round. As soon as the system finished its announcement, some areas lit up with green light. Obviously, these were the so-called safe zones. In order to fight for a spot to survive, everyone started attacking each other. Sangha and the others originally wanted Dokja to find a way to stop everyone, only to find that he had already stood in a safe zone himself. Faced with everyone's questions, Dokja only told them, according to the description in the novel, that the scale of the monster horde was too huge to be stopped by just a few people, and told them to hurry up and fight for a safe zone too. A flicker of disappointment welled up in everyone's hearts, thinking that Dokja, having secured a safe zone for himself, no longer cared about others' lives. But now, everyone was fighting over those few spots. Sangha and the others really couldn't bear to attack them. Just then, the countdown ended. A large number of monsters rushed into the station through teleportation portals. The few people without a safe zone resolutely jumped into the monster horde, ready to fight the monsters to the death. Kim Dokja was extremely anxious. When he suddenly remembered something from the novel, he told them that there were 2 and 3 safe zones respectively. in the hidden corners on both sides of the station, and told them to hurry up and take those spots. The 5 of them split up into 2 groups in an instant, but when Dokja carried the boy to the 2-person safe zone, he found that Yu Junghyak was already there and had already taken 1 spot. Dokja hesitated for just a moment before letting the boy take the other spot in the safe zone, while he was trapped in the middle of the monster horde. However, Dokja didn't intentionally seek death. Before the monsters could bite him, he ate that nightmare item. Although this would plunge him into a terrifying nightmare, during this period, Dokja would be in an invincible state. No matter how the beasts bit him, he wouldn't suffer any damage. After an unknown amount of time, Dokja finally woke up from the nightmare. By this time, the first wave of the monster horde had passed. Only the survivors in the safe zones remained in the station. Before they could even catch their breath, the system notified everyone again that the second wave of the monster horde would launch an attack in 10 minutes, and this time, there would be only 1 safe zone spot. As soon as the announcement ended, a bright emerald light lit up beneath David's feet. Everyone rushed forward, wanting to seize it, yet they hesitated, fearing David's strength. Just then, Dokja stepped forward. He said he wanted to buy David's safe zone spot with 100,000 gold coins. David thought Dokja was joking. After all, that was 100,000 gold coins, so he agreed without hesitation. To his surprise, the next moment, 100,000 gold coins were transferred to David's account, and the green light also moved to beneath Dokja's feet. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he took out that broken sword and started destroying the safe zone. After experiencing the previous monster horde, Dokja believed that if everyone joined forces, they could stop the monster horde, so he decided to destroy the only safe zone in order to unite everyone and make them resist the upcoming monster horde with all their strength. Everyone rushed forward to stop him, scolding Dokja for trying to kill them all. However, Yu Jungyak's diehard fan was quite interested in this and decided to help Dokja. As the safe zone was completely shattered, a new monster horde was about to arrive. David, who had 100,000 gold coins, immediately summoned a Gatling machine gun vehicle and blocked it in front of the teleportation portal. The monsters rushing out of the portal were almost instantly riddled with bullets. At this moment, David looked just like a god of war. However, as more and more monsters poured out, some still slipped through the cracks. The remaining people cooperated with each other and barely managed to kill these monsters. Just when everyone thought they had successfully survived the second wave of the monster horde, a giant beast walked out of the teleportation portal. It was the fire bear that killed Yu Junghyak in the novel. The surging flames instantly burned a dozen survivors to death. Kim Dokja knew he was no match for the fire bear and planned to flee here, but he saw Yu Junghyak rushing over here. He hurriedly stopped Yu and recounted the previous prediction again, but Yu Junghyak was still as arrogant as ever, and didn't take Kim Dokja's warning seriously at all. After that, Yu Junghyak held his sword and charged at the fire bear. The small monsters along the way couldn't withstand even one of his sword strikes. Even the fire bear was easily toyed with by Yu Junghyak. Seeing this scene, even Dokja was stunned. This was completely different from the scenario in the novel. Just then, a system notification sound rang out.
비정상적인 능력치를 가진 인간이 있습니다. 시나리오 난이도가 상향됩니다.
The fire bear, which was originally on its last legs, not only fully recovered but also evolved into a more powerful fire-flying ox. At this moment, Yu Junghyak still didn't realize something was wrong, and resolutely swung his sword at the fire-flying ox. The next second, his sword shattered into pieces. Although Yu Junghyak realized something was off now, he still didn't take the fire-flying ox seriously. It wasn't until he was sent flying by the enemy's punch that he finally realized the danger. Dokja wouldn't stand by and watch Yu Junghyak die, so he resolutely led everyone forward to help. The boy used his skill to summon bugs. Shangshan fired threads to tie up the fire-flying ox, all just to buy Dokja time to attack the core on the fire-flying ox's chest. However, their strength was far from enough to stop the fire-flying ox, and the broken sword couldn't pierce the core. Even with the die-hard fans' sniper shots, they only managed to leave a slight crack on the core, which fully healed in just a moment. At this moment, everyone fell into despair. The next second, the knocked flying Yu Junghyak reappeared. He swung his sword fiercely at the fire-flying ox, and, surprisingly achieved decent results. But before everyone could rejoice, Yu Junghyak was caught off guard by the fire-flying ox, and turned to cinders on the spot. As the novel's protagonist died, the game system world began to collapse. Just as Dokja's heart turned completely cold, someone bought the fish monster core he had listed on the trading market. Dokja was extremely shocked when he saw the buyer's name, for it was exactly the same as the author's name. But now he had no time to think about that. He resolutely took out Ether Faith and repaired the broken sword. Broken conviction, holding the divine weapon, Kim Dokja felt an endless surge of power within himself. The once fearsome fire-flying ox was no longer his match. The divine weapon easily pierced the monster's core. This monster horde dungeon finally came to an end. All the dead people were revived, and the game world returned to its original state. Through this incident, Kim Dokja realized that he had become the new protagonist ever since he transmigrated here. He decided to take on the responsibility on his shoulders, and create a more perfect ending according to his own will. The film ends here. The Prophet Omniscient Reader was released in July this year. The film is adapted from the webtoon of the same name. However, many of its plots and character settings have been revised. So many original webtoon fans have stated that the character discrepancies are too big to accept. But in terms of the film itself, although some actors' performances are overly clumsy, it can still be regarded as a mid-tier fantasy adventure film. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe to it.